Defunding the police department is a hot topic here in Austin. Yesterday, Governor Abbott announced he was proposing legislation for the next session in January that would essentially punish cities that defund their police departments. Joining us now to talk more about that is Governor Greg Abbott. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Governor, please give us the nuts and bolts about what this proposed legislation would do.
Basically, what it does, it cuts off the money flow to the city of Austin that it receives from property tax revenue, such that it would make it impossible for Austin to continue to function as a city if they continue in their efforts to defund law enforcement. So basically, it leaves the city of Austin, as well as any other city, no option but to continue to fund law enforcement to keep communities safe. Without law enforcement officers keeping communities safe, all the other functions of government are rendered pretty much nullified. Public safety is job one.
So property tax rates would be frozen. Again, this is happening in Austin right now. If passed in January, would it be retroactive? How would that work? Would it affect the city of Austin?
Slight clarification.
Go ahead.
It would, and let me explain how. Because it's not property tax rates that are frozen, it's property tax revenue that is frozen. So as Austin continues to grow, even though property values may increase, even though that may lead to what would be potential additional property tax revenue, the city of Austin would not be getting that additional revenue. They would be running shortfalls for roads, for all these other programs that the city of Austin wants to invest in because of the growth of the city. Percentage-wise, all of these other programs would slowly be defunded, making it basically impossible even for the city of Austin to continue to operate. But also it would act in the advance to prohibit any other city from being able to do so. But understand this also, and this is the first program rolled out. Know that there will be additional programs rolled out between now and the time the session begins that will also directly affect the city of Austin as well as any other city in the state of Texas. What the legislature will do will be to make it impossible for cities to defund local law enforcement because of the paramount important role that local law enforcement plays.
Can you give us an example of what some of those other programs would be?
You would love for me to tell you right now, but it's going to have to wait to another day for an announcement on those other programs. Just know this for your audience, and that is your audience may have seen some of the graphics of what's taken place in places like Portland and Seattle and Chicago and St. Louis and New York City. We are not going to allow a replication of those types of events in Austin or any other city in the state of Texas, because we want to protect the people, we want to protect the store owners, we want to protect the property and the lives of the people in this community.
Governor, Mayor Adler says you are making it sound like the city is endangering its residents. He says the money would still be used for public safety, but redirected, reimagined to agencies like EMS and programs targeting violence and helping the homeless. Thoughts on that?
Kelly. Yeah, let's talk about a very specific example about that, because one thing the city of Austin, as well as some other cities, talk about is redirecting some of that funding to address things like domestic violence. And what you all reported on recently, just a couple of days ago, was the domestic violence that took place in Cedar Park that led to 3 police officers being shot. A domestic violence situation is a situation that so often needs a police officer to show up. You can't have social workers showing up, getting shot, completely incapable of dealing with all the chaos that can go along with a domestic violence situation. That's just one of a long list of examples of the pivotal role that law enforcement plays in making sure we keep our community safe.
Now, there have been protests across the country calling for change. Instead of the defunding of police departments as a way to reduce cases of police brutality against people of color, what would you like to see happen? What do you propose?
So I have been working with the Legislative Black Caucus, as well as other members of the legislature, on proposed changes in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd. What happened to George Floyd was wrong, should never have happened, and should be prevented going forward. And so these are some of the strategies that we're talking about. One is we need to make sure that our law enforcement officers are better trained so that they will not use the type of lethal force that was used in Minneapolis against George Floyd. Second, the types of lethal force that are used in some circumstances that are not needed should not be used and should be prohibited. Those are just two easy, quick examples. And there may be some more things coming forward that the legislature will be working on in the upcoming session.
Okay, unfortunately, we are out of time, but Governor Abbott, thank you for sharing your perspective with us tonight.
Thank you all. Take care.